cancer. Number 3 being cerebrovascular accidents or strokes. Number 4 being accidents. 5, diabetes. 6, homicide. 7, pneumonia. 8, respiratory disease. 9, AIDS. And 10, conditions that were present or surrounding your birth, perinatal disease. If you look at those 10 and single out the first 3, heart disease, cancer, and stroke, no, the first, and number 5, diabetes, you can zero in on lifestyle habits having a great deal to do with those things. What lifestyle habits? One is how we eat. Eating has a lot to do with heart disease. Eating and what we eat has a lot to do with cancer. Eating and what we and how we eat has a lot to do with diabetes. Now, you talked about greens today, and I'm going to say a little bit about eating green today, and I'm going to say a little bit about greens, that thing that we love, but that we don't eat enough of. What's so good about greens? And then I'm going to say a little bit about the handout. Well, for one thing, dark green leafy vegetables supply quite a bit of minerals and vitamins to your diet. But it also provides something very important called vitamin K. Who knows what vitamin K does? Vitamin K is a very important vitamin that if you cut yourself, you're not going to bleed to death because you've got enough vitamin K in your collard greens, in your broccoli, in your mustard greens, in your salad. Vitamin K promotes clotting, which is why some of you that are on Coumadin, they tell you can't eat a whole lot of collards because it'll undo what you've done with the Coumadin. But what does vitamin K do otherwise? It prevents you from bleeding to death. It helps build up your bones so that you have stronger bones, okay? It's low in fat, the collard greens and the greens that you eat. Greens help supply potassium, and potassium helps to counteract high blood pressure. So those of you who are hypertensive, greens are helping you to counteract that blood pressure elevation. Greens help lower vitamin K. Vitamin K is part of what you get from greens, and vitamin K helps to, as I said, strengthen the bones. It helps to lessen the calcification that's in your arteries. You've heard of having a stroke because the vessel just pops. Well, vitamin K decreases the calcification or hardening of those arteries so that it lessens your risk there. So there's a lot to be said for vitamin K. Now, why am I bringing this up about vitamin K and eating green? Because you can do all of this, but if you consume enough alcohol, you can undo the benefits of your greens, because alcohol hurts the liver, and that's where vitamin K is what? Made. So that is why you see people who are alcoholics coming in sometimes bleeding or coughing up blood or vomiting up blood, I should say. You know, that brings me to something that I almost have to say, even though we're talking about eating healthily. And I'll tell people who drink too, I'll say, eat healthy and all of that. But they're undoing the effects of all that good stuff they've just eaten. And how many alcoholics have I seen who just bled to death? It's not a pleasant thing for your family to see when they come to see you. Green leafy vegetables have lots of fiber. Fiber. Who knows what that does for you? One of the most common things I see in my practice is constipation. Not a pleasant subject around food, I know, but it's one of those things. I would say I come across constipation in about 60 to 70% of my practice. So many people are constipated. Don't eat enough veggies, don't drink enough water. You know, your body is about 60% water. So when you come in and you tell me, well, I don't like water. I've even had patients tell me, I don't like water. And I'm like, you don't like water? You've got to drink water. And they'll say, well, how much water, Dr. Jenkins, do you think I need to drink? Well, I'll tell them at least 4 to 6 glasses of water. The textbooks will tell you 8 glasses. But if I can get 4 to 6 glasses out of most people, I'm doing really pretty well. Because you think about it, you're sweating, you're letting go of water for various body functions, and you're not drinking it. So if you don't drink it, what happens? It's going to absorb it from whatever's in the gut. So that's going to give you a hard bowel movement, or none. So you're going to come to me and say, you're constipated. Fortunately, vegetables are God's way of sweeping out the intestinal tract. You don't have to worry about going and getting a cleansing enema or what do they call it, irrigation. You eat your veggies. It's a natural. It's going to sweep you right out, and you're going to feel so good. Something you just have to do. It also, green leafy vegetables give you vitamin C. And vitamin C helps the body make cartilage. You know, a lot of us have arthritis. Our bones are bone on bone sometimes, just wears down to just being on bone on bone. You know, you can tell when you have that problem. You just, if it's in your knee, just take your knee and put your hand over it and just put your knee out and in and out and see if you feel it creaking. You ought not feel it. It ought to be smooth like oil. But if you feel it cracking back and forth, that's bone on bone. And pretty soon you may have to have that replaced because it's not lubricating back and forth. But vitamin C helps you make that cartilage. Isn't that great how God has just supplied all these things to fix this and fix that? If we would just take advantage of those things, it's a wonderful thing. And then vegetables, especially dark green leafy ones, have something called antioxidants. Antioxidants. Now, as I've said on the show so many times, if you cut an apple and you set it on the table and go back and look at it in about an hour or two, notice that it turns brown. That's oxidation. And that's a mini picture of what happens in our bodies. We age, but we do it over years. Antioxidants combat the aging. And you find that in veggies. And you find it a lot in cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, the cauliflower, the collard greens, the kale, the Brussels sprouts. That reminds me, we need to get into some other veggies too. Collard greens are good, but try the kale too. Try the asparagus too. Try the mustard greens too. Okay? And you know you want to cook it in some degree of oil. That actually helps it. What are some of the better oils? Olive oil is a great one. Olive oil is great. When you start using the soy oil and the corn oil, those aren't horrible, but they have a lot of omega-6 fatty acids in them, and we think that those are not as good. Those actually have some negative qualities. They're not horrible, not as bad as using fat meat or something, but they are not as good as, say, using the olive oil or such or canola oil. Okay? I want us to look at the handout a little bit now. And just before we pull it out exactly, I want to say one of the biggest problems with eating for all of us is we don't do portion size. We don't do serving sizes.
Yeah, right.
We do portion size. A serving is the amount that they have calculated that you should have at one time. A serving. Okay, like a serving of sausage links are 2 small links of sausage. A serving of meat is about 3 to 4 ounces of meat, which is about the size of a deck of cards. But a portion of meat is whatever you put on your plate. That's a portion. You got a portion of what was in the dish. Okay? So eating servings and portions are what are getting us in trouble. And you know, it's more tempting to get a portion if we go to a buffet than it is to get a serving. Because you're going to get your money's worth, right? You spent all that money, now you're going to get it back. All right? Let's look at our handout. Let's get past the information that I put out to you about agape. And let's go to the body mass index. The body mass index. I want you to look at that, and I want you to see where you fall on the body mass index. If you are 5'8" and a body weight of say 209, then your body mass index is 30. Now, some of you may say, well, mine isn't on there. That's a red flag. It only goes to a body mass index of 31. Now, many people are 35 and 40, so don't feel bad. This wasn't meant to embarrass you or make you feel bad. It's just as many as would go on this sheet. But let me just tell you that beyond 31, beyond 30 really, you're considered obese. And so we want to look at that. If your waist size is greater than 35,